Hello there, welcome to lesson number 5 in our series on creating ceramic and porcelain objects using FluidDesigner for 3D printing. In today's lesson we're going to show you how you can create a simple fruit bowl very quickly and easily. So if you start off FluidDesigner, first thing you need to do is to go to the Learning Projects Ceramic and Porcelain Projects folder. And we're doing lesson number 5 today, so we just scroll down and it's 05 perforated fruit bowl is what we're actually going to create today. So if we just drag and drop that onto the workspace, and I'll just switch on the screencast keys, so there are any key presses I make should be displayed down here. I'll just move this window back slightly as well. So this is the object that we're going to create. And I'll just zoom around it a little bit so you can see what it looks like. So it's a fruit bowl, and it's got some holes in it, basically perforated. So that's what we're going to create. And in the help panel here you'll see the instructions on how to do it, and we're going to add a mesh and a math function, and a Z math surface is the function that we're going to use to create this object. And we're going to set the dimensions to X is 200 millimeters, as you can see here. X is 200. 200 is the red arrow direction, so this is 200 millimeters wide. The Y dimension we're going to set is 250 millimeters. The green arrow is the Y dimension, and we're also going to set the Z to 100. The blue arrow is Z 100, so that's the depth of this object. And we're also going to have to rotate it, and that's just because of how this function actually works. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to add a mesh, and we're going to add a math function, and we're going to add a Z math surface. So this defines a function Z equals F bracket X comma Y close bracket. Now you don't need to worry about that, that's all taken care of for you. But the function is displayed down here, and it is possible to change these values and change the shape of this object. That's the technical way of doing it. Don't worry about that at the moment, let's do it the easy way today. So you can change these values in here, but we're going to hide them out of the way, so just close that down for the moment and just shut this panel, the toolbox, out of the way. And what we're going to do is to modify it just using the properties window over here. But first of all, let's see what's actually been created. So if we go to view and zoom to selected, and I'll just zoom back a little bit. So this is the surface that's created by default, and it's got an X value of 2 millimeters, a Y value of 2 millimeters, and a Z of almost 2 millimeters. So I could change these values here, and as you can see, as I change it, the X value changes, the red arrow is the X, and the Y value changes, and also the Z value changes. Okay, so that's the kind of slow way of doing it. Quick way of doing it is I hold down the left mouse button and drag it. Okay, so that's the dynamic quick way of doing it. The other way of doing it is just to look at the information in the help panel. We want to set X at 200 millimeters, so if we click in here and type 200, and we need the millimeters, 200 mm, that will give us the dimensions in the X. And I'm just going to zoom back out using the mouse button so you can see what's going on here. Okay, so we've made it 200 millimeters in that direction. We need a Y value of 250 millimeters, so again I'm going to click in there and type 250. I forgot the millimeters, yeah, so I want 250 mm for 250 millimeters. So the Y direction is the green arrow. So now what we need to do is to add some thickness. We've got 4 millimeters at the moment. According to the information in the help panel, we need 100 millimeters. So I'm going to do it dynamically this time. So I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and drag it so you can see the object rising up. Yeah, and we want a value of 100. So the accurate way to do it is obviously to type 100 mm for millimeters. So that gives us the basic shape that we need today. The only thing is that that one's upside down compared with our original. not easy to see just there like that. Okay, let me just zoom it. So we need to also set the rotation of Y to 180 degrees. So the rotation is here, so I need to just rotate it around. The green arrow is the Y direction, and so I just need to rotate this to 180 degrees, or it's easier to type it, and that changes it to look like the one that I've got on the screen here now. Okay, so we've now got our basic outline of the object, and I'm just going to move it up above the grid for the moment. Okay, so I'm going to set this Z value here, the location value. I'm actually going to type in 100 millimeters just to put it above the grid, which is going to make life a little bit easier as we put in these perforations. Now, one of the things it's very important to understand in FluidDesigner is that whenever you resize objects, you always need to reset the scale. So because we've changed the size of this, these dimensions of the object, what we need to do is hold down the control key on the keyboard and press the letter A, so Control and A, and set the scale. Set the scale back to 1. So we've applied the object transformation back to 1. That's a very important thing to do if we're 3D printing. It can cause problems later. So when we resize anything, apply the scale back to 1, and it tells you that in the help panel here. Now, the next thing we want to do is to put some holes in this object. So one of the things to do is probably to look at it from the top. So if we go View and Top View now, we're looking down on the object, and I'll just scroll in so we can see it filling the screen a little bit better. And what we want to do is to delete some of these faces in the object. But before we can delete anything, we need to go into Edit Mode. And we can go into edit mode by pressing the tab key on the keyboard, and you'll see that the object is highlighted. The whole of the object's actually highlighted at the moment, and the way to select all of an object, or to deselect all, is to press the A key on the keyboard. So if I press A, all of those individual faces are not selected now. A will select all of them. A will deselect, A will select. Now what I want to do is to delete a selection of faces in here to create this perforated pattern at the bottom, as in the original object. Now to delete a face, first of all what we've got to do is highlight it, and to delete an object in FluidDesigner we press the X key on the keyboard and then delete a face. So if we highlight that face there and press the X key on the keyboard, we can delete the face. Highlight, press the X key, delete a face. Now this is a slow way of doing it, so another way of doing it is if we hold down the Shift key and select multiple faces at the same time. Not always easy to do this because these crosshairs here sometimes get in the way, but I've selected a few faces there. I'll select a few more actually, work my way down. Let me see if I can select all of them. So I'm holding down the Shift key and selecting faces. There's probably going to be a couple of faces. I'm probably not going to be able to quite get that one there because the zoomed in. Yeah, I've got it now. So I've selected all of those faces there. Now what I can do, once they're all highlighted and you're happy with the ones you're going to delete, X key on the keyboard and delete those faces. So what I've done is deleted the faces on one side of the mesh of the object at the moment. I could clearly go on to do the same on the other side to create this pattern at the bottom. I'm not going to do that in this case, but you should. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave it like that, and what we now need to do is to come out of edit mode. We're currently in edit mode. It tells you that up in the top of the screen here, and we press the tab key to come out of edit mode. So we've got our perforations on one side of our object, but our object has got no thickness, it's just a shell. And so what we now need to do is to use the properties, the modifiers icon. So that's the little spanner here in the properties window, and we need to add a modifier called a solidify modifier. And the solidify modifier, if I just open it up, open up the properties panel here, we can change the thickness of the shell. And so if I change it to a thickness of 1 millimeters, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, I'll just zoom in and you can see that happening. Okay, so I'll just set it back to 0 there. So there's the original shell. If we put a thickness of 1 millimeter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see the thickness going up. We want a thickness of about 4 millimeters for ceramic objects. There is this other value here, the offset, and if I just hold the mouse down, you can see it's just offsetting it. It's just where the original shell was, it either puts the thickness above it or below it, or if we put this offset at 0, it puts the thickness above and below the original shell. So I'll just set it back to 0. Yep, there's the original shell. When I select 1 millimeter, it's going above and below the original shell when the offset is 0. Not so important for this particular object, but it can be important for certain objects. So yeah, we now need to apply this thickness once we're happy with it at 4 millimeters. And in FluidDesigner, to confirm something, we always go to Tools, Object, and convert it to a mesh. And the modifier, the thickness modifier, will disappear, and we can't change the thickness of it now. Not from the 4 millimeters that we've already got. So what we want to do is to save this now. We've completed it. I know we've missed out one side of the perforations, but that's all right. You can do that, spend a bit more time. I want to delete this object here, so I'll press the X key on the keyboard and delete it. This is the one that we've created into today's lesson. I'm just going to set the this Z value here, the location. I'm just going to set it back to 0, just reset it back to 0. Not so important. You notice the X and the Y and the Z have changed slightly because we've added some thickness to this object. But that's essentially it. So I've just set my object back and given it back the origin at the center of the grid here. Not essential to do, but it just locates it back at the origin. So we now need to save this, and as is usual in FluidDesigner, we always go to File and Save As. Don't go to File and Save, go to Save As. Go up the menu system and look for My Projects, Ceramic and Porcelain Projects, and you can save this Lesson 05 fruit bowl as a Blender file. So you save that in the My Projects folder. Now you can't print Blender files, so what we need to do is we need to export this as a wavefront object, export it as a printable file, and we always export them to the desktop. So it's 05 fruit bowl perforated, and it's an object file now. So we export that object to the desktop, and then we always recommend that you go to NetFab Basic, which is free. You can download it from the internet, and if you go to Project and Open and go to the desktop, you can open up 05 fruit bowl perforated, open up the object file, and NetFab will analyze this object and make any corrections to it if there are any that need to be made. Now there's no warning red triangle, which is usually a good sign, but we always recommend that you go to Extras and repair the part, because one thing NetFab will do is it will triangulate the mesh. These weren't triangles before when you were working in FluidDesigner, but they are triangulated now in NetFab. And if I just move the NetFab window over so you can see the right hand side of it and just click on Update, you'll see that we haven't actually got any problems. The border edges, orientation and holes, there aren't any problems, and we've just got one shell. But even so, I would always run automatic repair and then click Update. Still 0, so that's good. And I would always apply the repair and remove any old parts, even if there aren't any. That will just save the mesh with the in this triangular format. So that's something we would always do in NetFab Basic. And then what you need to do is to go to Part and export it as a wavefront object and save it to the desktop. And NetFab always adds this little bit of text, repaired. So it's 05 fruit bowl perforated repaired. This is the object file, and this is the printable file now. That's what you should send to the printer. So that's the end of today's lesson. Thank you.